Hello there, I'm Sim UK. If you don't know me and you don't know the channel, I just want to fill you in very quickly on what this video is going to be and from which perspective I am coming at this video from. I've worked in the IT industry for about 20 years. I was a software developer for companies like Microsoft, PlayStation, etc, etc. Not working on games, but working on other software-based stuff that they have in their midst. So I do understand software development. I also used to be part of the beta testing team for Dovetail Games, Train Sim World and Flight Sim World before Flight Sim World went under. That's before the beta team quote actually existed. So they used to send me products and I used to review them honestly. One of the very last videos I made, I basically said I'm going to boycott Train Sim World. And prior to that, actually, when I was working for Flight Sim World, I pulled myself out of that association as well because I could see their priorities were wrong and their attitude was wrong. It's different with Train Sim World. It is very different with Train Sim World. This is very much a Dovetail Games issue, and in no way do I hold any individual person responsible, or at least no individual developer responsible. And clearly they're very talented. They're based in Guildford, my old stomping ground. I went to college in Guildford, so I know Guildford very well. So it's a company that's actually pretty close to my heart, and it pains me that I am not a fan of Dovetail Games. They're clearly very talented. Some of the stuff they did with Flight Sim World was absolutely astounding. There was, I remember distinctly, there was a bird strike incident where the windscreen got smashed, all your electrics went out and you had to land the plane. That kind of thing is excellent. I would love to see that in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and Flight Sim World could have been something really spectacular. It's better at Train Sim World. They've got an established system there. They have no competitors. That's a big, big thing. They have no competitors whatsoever. But they have promised and failed to deliver so many times. Now, my issue with Dovetail Games, from a developer's perspective, from a software design perspective, is that they copy and paste, and everything is linear. They don't use object-oriented design implementations. If they did, then a fix on DLC A would fix all DLCs that utilize that bit of code. That's how object-oriented code is. You fix it once and it's fixed across the board. What Dovetail Games do is they copy and paste what they need, and then they modify that code to achieve what it is they're trying to achieve. So if there's a bug in the route or there's a bug in the train, they will systematically tweak and make that code work rather than figure out what the problem is and fix it. So what you end up with are two identical trains on two different routes that have completely different code. Not completely different code, similar code, but different code, because they're changing things in this train on B to make it work with that scenario, but not changing it on A because it doesn't need to be fixed in that scenario. So you end up with this mismatch of individual items. That means that they're constantly introducing new bugs and trying to chase their tail, trying to fix old bugs, because nothing is ever the same. And I've never looked at the code inside a Dovetail Games DLC, but I can almost guarantee you that the commenting is abysmal, because that, bearing in mind I've worked in the industry, I've seen good systems, bad systems, and everything in between. And every single problem that Dovetail Games have with their software stems from bad implementation, bad planning, and bad commenting. This is why they have a circle of constant bugs that they cannot fix. And when they fix it over here and it doesn't apply here, that's why. That's what's annoyed me about Dovetail Games for such a long time. Add to the fact that they are consistently promising and failing to deliver on their promises. Train Sim World came out, what, 4 years ago? 3-4 years ago? Something like that. A long time ago. And there were certain things that they promised back then. They're really not coming. We're not going to get to see Steam or multiplayer anytime soon, as far as I can tell. So, I have boycotted Dovetail Games for quite a long time. I did make an exception for the Bakerloo Line Underground route, because that's something I've longed for them to do for such a long time. The routes are not long enough. They won't extend them. They're not releasing third-party tools. There are a lot of reasons not to be positive about Dovetail Games, the company. Let me be clear on this. I think Train Sim World has aspects of absolute brilliance. I think the modelling is sublime. In some DLCs, I think the audio is very good. The lighting is average. Why we still don't have dynamic weather is beyond me. It's something that should be implemented, and it isn't implemented because of their lazy planning phase. They just try and chuck stuff out as quick as possible. Doesn't matter how buggy it is, they just want more money coming in. So when I look on Steam and I see 82% positive reviews overall, I am astounded. I'm not accusing them of buying reviews, but I am curious how they can have such positive reviews with the history and the consistent failure to deliver on their promises that they still appear to have. Now, I haven't watched a Dovetail Games video for years, since Bakerloo Line, I think was when that released. That was the last time I watched anything, and prior to that it must have been six months or so. So I really am out of the loop. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's planned. I don't know anything. I'm going to watch the Q&A. I'm going to have my say on the Q&A. Then I'll try and compress that video down into a short snippet video, and I'll upload this full video as well. So you can pick and choose what you want to watch, or nothing at all. I have a lot of people who hate my channel because I am honest and critical of this company. But understand this. Dovetail Games stopped sending me review codes because I was critical of their work. Okay, partly, in fact mostly, probably because I encouraged people not to buy any more products from them until they started to deliver on their promises. But the problem is, and this is a very, very important problem, it's a legal issue as well. If they refuse to send out game codes to reviewers who give honest reviews that are negative, then they are in fact controlling the narrative. Unless you're positive about what we do, we won't send you any keys. Now, there's nothing stopping me from buying their products and reviewing them that way. I could do the 2-hour Steam return thing if I'm not impressed, but because I have said to embargo them until they start delivering on their promises, I refuse to buy anything, with the exception of Bakerloo Line, because that was something I had asked for and hoped for a long time. So you understand where I'm coming from. Let's jump into the video, and it's long. I promise you this is going to be a long video.
Otherwise that could have been quite exciting while nothing actually happened. Right.
Yes,
Hello there, chums.
Hello there, chumps. Nice. I'm sure that's meant in a fond way, but I'll be honest with you. I really struggle to call him Colonel Failure. I keep calling him Colonel Mustard and Colonel Sanders. I can't stop doing it, so I apologise. But the Colonel, I don't know him at all. Never met the guy. I genuinely can't tell if he's being genuine and honest or whether he's just a mouthpiece for Dovetail Games. Sometimes I feel like he's on our side. Sometimes I feel like he isn't. When he says hello chumps, I'm kind of on the fence with that. Is that funny or is that derogatory? Because I think he's quite derogatory to some people sometimes. And if he does it in this video, I'll highlight it, because I'm on the fence with this guy. I really am. I'll just say, having never met the man at all, I'm sure he's perfectly genuine, nice, decent, honest guy. I have seen him make posts on a completely unrelated subject, and he seemed quite genuine and honest, and you know, just a nice guy. So I'm sure he is a nice guy, but because he's being paid and controlled by Dovetail Games, I do question his genuine concern for the consumer. But I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. I really am.
It is roadmap Tuesday.
Chap on the other side, I think his name's Adam. I know that he's been part of Train Sim World before Dovetail Games took over. So he was back. He was in the team back when Railworks was the thing. This guy, I think, is the most genuine, honest, passionate person I've seen at Dovetail Games. I know Matt Pedersen. I know him quite well. I've never met him in person, but we have spoken and talked many, many times and fallen out a few times as well. But Matt Pedersen just feels a little bit too much like a politician. He's a really nice guy. I love Matt to bits. I would give him the shirt off my back. I think he's an absolutely awesome guy and genuine and honest. But he's too political for my liking. He is too reserved in what he says. Every now and then, I mean, his passion is undebatable. Every now and then, little bits slip out. I asked him directly if Steam was gonna be part of Train Sim World 2, and he said there's no way in the world he would let it not be. But obviously, his clout is not as big as I once thought it was, because it's still not here and it's not a priority, which is disappointing. Adam, on the other hand, has been there for such a long time, and his passion, again, undeniable, but I actually find him to be more genuine. He'll speak his mind a little more freely, I find. So I really like Adam. I have a lot of time for Adam. I think he's awesome.
You can thank Adam for us starting on time there. I was trolling the forum, trawling, I should say, rather than trolling. Trawling the forum to pick out some extra business to talk about this evening. Long Island Railroad. Now, I've seen one or two people be a little bit confused about what's going on with Long Island Railroad, because in the removed section, we've removed the Long Island Railroad's focus, but then in upcoming, we've got the Long Island Railroad fixes galore. What is going on there?
Basically, we have focused our time during February on Long Island Railroad, and now we are moving on. We've done a really sizable amount of work, which I'm really pleased with, both improvements and additions and feature upgrades, which we'll get to in a second. But there are a lot of routes that everyone's interested in, so we need to move on. We need to get to the next set of routes, which, as you know, we've said before, is Main Specified and Rapid Transit. So what we're moving to now is the testing phase, and we have changed that up following some reviews and looking back at how things have gone on the past couple of releases from the Preserve group. We don't think it is appropriate to try and keep up with the main release schedule, because that puts too much pressure on the testing of our changes. So
That's a really good thing. That's the correct attitude to have. Now, what I read between the lines when he says things like that is that somebody somewhere has been pushing for them to release with the regular updates. What he's saying is that if you want this done properly, then I need the time to test it thoroughly and have other people test it and provide feedback. We review the feedback and fix any bugs and issues that are outstanding. By forcing releases before we've fully tested and fully fixed any discovered issues is a pointless exercise. That's something that Dovetail Games have always done. They're about push it out, push it out, push it out. It's not ready for release. Just get it out there, just get it out there. We need the money, just push it out there. I can't stand companies who do this. I've worked for companies who did that. I've worked for companies who out and out lied to the company, to their faces lied to the company. I cannot abide people who behave that way. Adam is absolutely correct. He needs the time to test and make sure that it's working properly before release. So kudos there to Adam.
What we're looking at now is getting Long Island Railroad built and out to our beta forum, our internal, external kind of...
That's the beta forum or beta forum that I used to be part of before it became the beta forum. No longer part of that, by the way. and be wary, because a lot of people who are just mouthpieces for Dovetail Games. As I said earlier, if Dovetail Games rescind your access to that because you say negative things, then they are controlling your narrative. Be aware of that. It's a legal position that you need to be aware of.
In the testing group, this is a lot more of the enthusiast caliber, and we have an awful lot of US railroad fans in that group as well, and they will give us the feedback and see how we're getting on, have we made the right changes.
I'd just like to clarify there my position, because I haven't really mentioned it. My brother is a train buff. He can tell you a lot about trains, way more than I could ever possibly hope to understand. My passion in train simulation is more to do with the simulation element. I love trains. I think trains are awesome. I'm more into my steam trains than anything else. But what I find absolutely fascinating is the ability to simulate doing something like that. I'm not that interested in the technical side of trains. So if I were a beta tester, I would be useless at beta testing things like signaling and so on and so forth, because my feedback would be posed as a question. I did this, this happened, is that right? Because I'm not that technically conversed in locomotives. So just to clarify there, I'm an enthusiast, but I'm not a hardcore locomotive fan. Prime example, Matt Peddleston, absolute legend in the train sim community, and quite rightly knows the inside and outside of pretty much every single cat's arsehole, excuse my language, but that is way beyond my pay grade. I have obviously picked things up over time and know how to use some of the systems. I know how to do this and that, and I can tell some trains apart from other trains, and I know some technical information about this, that and the other. I even know some things about certain routes, but mainly only ones that I've been on and taken sort of stock notice of. I've never taken a photo of a train. I've never been a train spotter. I have had Hornby Railways in the past, but no, I'm not a hardcore train sim fan. I'm not a hardcore train fan, but I am a train sim fan. And that's what frustrates me about this game, is it lacks that simulation element that I'm looking for.
The patch notes will be where the actual detail is. So I have already read a few questions on the forum about, it doesn't look like you fixed very much and you're already moving on. Well, that's because we're not putting the detail on the roadmap. In my fix list, we have 74 items. That might not be the number of changes that were made, but certainly there were 74 items that we have confirmed as improved. There were then half a dozen or so more that were as by design, or the issue actually no longer occurs, which is really cool. We do like finding those ones, because that means we have already improved aspects of that route. So at the moment...
What that really means is they fixed it, but they don't know how they fixed it. That's what that really means.
Yeah, we're moving into the testing phase. There is a minor glitch in that it doesn't build at the moment.
That's a pretty major issue. So what he's saying there is that the Unreal Engine that they're using has theoretically upgraded the way in which it renders out the package, and it no longer works with the system they've got, which means they're going to have to go in and fix whatever that is. Now, the problem with that, in the way that Dovetail Games produces stuff, is that every single DLC is going to have this fix, but every single DLC is different. So they're going to have to go and figure out how to do this for every single DLC they've released. This is the problem with linear programming like this, copy, paste, tweak. It doesn't work. If they went down an object-oriented route, then fixing it in one place would fix it across the board, because you're utilizing the same core code. You may have additional code that's added to it to expand upon a class or a blueprint, as it is in Unreal Engine, but you wouldn't have to go and change that individually in each DLC package. This is what frustrates me about Dovetail Games. They are, quite literally, their own worst enemy.
So we're just working through the build process, and then it'll be out to the beta testers. So at the moment, no idea on release date. We'd much rather have it in a really good shape before we come out with it.
Again, kudos to Adam. We'd rather have it in a good working state before we release it. That is the correct attitude. That is not the attitude of Dovetail Games. Reading between the lines, he has had to push for that, for the ability to only release when it's ready. I bet you he's under pressure constantly just to get stuff out, and he's having to fight back against that, which is one of my biggest problems with Dovetail Games. Is somebody somewhere in the loop is a problem, and they're causing more problems by pushing stuff out too quickly.
This isn't the last time you'll be doing any updates, right?
No, exactly. This is only what we've done inside the month of February, because as I say, we do need to get onto other routes. We would love to sit and do as much as we can on Long Island, but actually we need to give other routes some love as well.
Okay, here's my take on this, right? Every single route that Dovetail Games has ever released has an issue of some sort or other. There are no perfect routes. There probably never will be a perfect route. That in itself is not necessarily a negative. But Dovetail Games cannot prioritise to save their bloody lives. My prioritisation list, if I went in there as a project lead, I would say, right, first thing that needs to be prioritised is that it needs to be functionally working from top to bottom. If there's a switch that's supposed to do something, then that switch must do something. If a signal is supposed to do something, that signal must do something. That would be my priority. Follow that up with audio, because audio is the keystone to immersion. And Dovetail Games and audio, on the most part, they miss the mark. Now they do use, what are they called? There's a company called something Armstrong Powerhouse, I think it is. Something like that. Like I say, it's been a while since I've been in the loop, but they make some really good audio. Dovetail Games just seem really lazy in that regard. They should have a dedicated team trying to get decent audio across the board. And again, now this is important. If they fix, say, a 192 or 182, and they've got that duplicate train on a different DLC, then updating the audio on one should update the audio on both. But it doesn't, because of this stupid linear design system they've got. So, functionally working, audibly immersive, and then finally eye candy. That's how I would prioritize it. Tell me in the comments what you think they should prioritize. But on a very basic note, that is how you should prioritize things. Take a project, work on the key things first, move on to the next project. Get everything functionally working. If I was there and project lead and I had any control over anything, I would say, right, do you know what? We're gonna have to change this, because this is ridiculous. Constantly chasing our tail, breaking stuff when we try and fix stuff. Let's get some object-oriented design into our systems so that we can build upon what we've got. We've got a solid core structure that is bug-free. We can use that to build upon. And every time we fix and enhance and build, everything benefits. I would force for that, because in the end, that would be cheaper and less time consuming than what they're doing now. Bearing in mind, this has been out for 4 years and they're still trying to fix stuff from the first DLC. Okay, so it doesn't work what they're doing. I think they have proven it time and time again. They need to get object-oriented design into their systems.
So yeah, this is what we've managed to do in February, and there is some more stuff that we didn't manage to get to, and actually reading the forum, there are a few things that have never actually been reported to us before. So it's interesting that giving it some airing time has meant that some issues have been reported that actually maybe weren't common previously.
What's actually happened there, more than likely, is that the fixes that they've implemented have caused new bugs. That's probably what's happened there.
So
right.
Actually we can add those to the list.
And it makes sense, right? So, we release these fixes and people can then go and judge them. and we'll get a supplemental round of feedback, so that when it comes round in the circuit again, you'll have a whole bunch of stuff that you can do to improve things. And that's before you even start to think about, well, actually, we've got all of these new core bits and pieces and exciting stuff that have been added into the game. You know, if you...
Now that's interesting. Core things. This is precisely my point. There needs to be a core. So when you update the core, everything should benefit from that update. That's object-oriented development 101. So I've been out of the loop for a long time. I'm now listening very intently. I hope they've taken heed and they're doing basically what I suggested, getting the core foundation right and building off of that like a tree.
If you're thinking passenger information screens or automated crossing gates and that kind of thing, that you can then go back and add in. So it makes sense that you run it in laps. Because
I mean, we don't even think about what will be added to Train Sim Worlds between now and the next time we look at Long Island. It could be in a couple of months' time. It could be in a year's time. Who knows?
Wow. So they've fixed 75 odd issues or enhanced 75 different things in Long Island, and they may not look at it again for 6 to 12 months. I know they're a small team, which is why this system is so bad for them. Whoever their architect is, their design architect is, they need to get them to assess the situation and say, can we make things better with an object-oriented implementation, and how long would it take to go from where we are to that?
It depends on what we get through and what does need attention. Can
you imagine if this was an object-oriented design and they fixed 75 things on Long Island and every single DLC received those updates? Now, it's not going to work exactly like that because you have completely different signaling systems and implementations from one country to another. So I appreciate that that's not going to work. Let's say 25% of them work across the board, like an audio enhancement that just works across the board, or a visual enhancement that just works across the board. Wouldn't that be better? Imagine how much time they're going to save, because they've got 25 different DLCs, and they're going to have to go and do that one fix 25 times, or they could do it once and 25 DLCs could benefit from it.
Certainly, I mean, in this round we have had the complete audio rebalance. So the team has looked at both the route and the train audio systems. But
I guarantee you that audio system enhancement that he's talking about is only applicable, probably, only applicable to that train on that route. If you took that train and put it on another route, it would probably still work, but no other train or other route will benefit from that enhancement.
So we're really, really keen to get feedback from the beta forum and our beta testers on that. We have the improved track rendering. So we took on board...
improved track rendering. Now, this is something that's irritated me with Dovetail games Train Sim World for a long time. The LOD distance is pathetic. It's like playing on a console. So eager are they to get their game onto consoles and reap the financial benefits of overcharging people there, that they're willing to forgo the quality that you expect in a PC. PC gamers like myself spend thousands upon thousands of pounds on their equipment and their systems, only to be restricted by LOD systems that are applicable for console gamers only. It's incredibly frustrating. So I'm quite excited about what he's going to say now.
And this was something I said in one of our early streams, what would I most want? So I've made sure that we're getting through that. So we've looked at all the LODs and all the rendering techniques that we've used on the track and the third rail. It was actually the third rail that proved the most difficult, because that is a large white cover on the side of the Long Island track, so it's very easy to spot.
On the Long Island track, again, see, this is a core element. The way that tracks are rendered should be a core element. It shouldn't be specific. to a DLC. So what he's saying is that they've improved the Long Island LOD, but nothing else. That's quite disappointing.
Where it comes in the distance. So we've worked hard on that. Hopefully everyone will like our improvements. We have added the platform destination displays.
At last? Seriously? How long has that DLC been out? And they've just added platform displays.
And we've already made great progress on that front with Main Special Barn and Rapid Transit. We have...
Again, that's something that should be implemented in the core and just rolled out to every DLC. This is ridiculous the way they do things.
And the brand new sky system that Train Sim World 2 introduced as well. So that'll be improved weather and cloud system, lighting and stuff like that.
Improved cloud, weather and lighting, etc. Okay, again, this is a core thing. They should update it once and it should apply to every DLC. And the fact that it doesn't is a big problem. They are adding so much to their workload, and every time they release a new DLC, they are adding to their workload. For them to not understand that is incredibly frustrating. It is so obvious. Anyone who's gone to university and learned how to architect a software development process is aware that this is not the right way to do it. At the end of the day, it's going to cost you more time and more money, and it's going to introduce more bugs. Plus, I've been asking for an incredibly long time to have dynamic weather. Why do I have to take a train route? I mean, they're only 20 minutes long at the moment. It's ridiculous, isn't it? They should be much longer. Where are the third-party tools to enable us to have like an 8-hour route? Where are they? But that's another thing. So many things. I did pick up on I started a video a couple of months back, and Colonel Mustard said, and I literally turned it on, flicked into the middle, and he spoke, and he said they are categorically not releasing any content that will extend any DLC that they've previously released, which means no route is ever going to get any longer than it currently is, which is, in my opinion, catastrophic. That is such a huge disappointment for me. But yes, why can't we have dynamic weather? I want to be able to get on a train on a sunny day or a dusky day and it starts raining halfway down the track, and then maybe it stops raining and the sun comes out. Why can't we have that dynamic weather? They've already got each individual weather condition type. They just need to transition between them logically. Why can't we have these things?
Or there is a lot of talk about the signalling system and the block system and how it reports back to the train cab, the in-cab signalling system. We haven't got onto those issues yet. So some of those things are still on the radar.
They seem like pretty important things to me. Why they aren't prioritized over the weather? Explain that to me. Why have pretty clouds being deemed more important? Do you see what I mean? It seems like their philosophy is, what can we do easy? What's the easiest thing we can do? What's the quickest thing we can fix? Not what is most important to be fixed, but what can we do quickest and easiest? This is what I don't like about Dovetail Games, is this seems to be their ethos through everything they've ever done.
Don't have any idea yet when we'll get back to them.
So let's take the signalling and the passenger information system as kind of two separate things. Mm-hmm. Now, presumably, after you've implemented passenger information on one route, you can then do the same work on another route, and it takes far less hassle because you kind of know what you're working.
In a perfect world, bearing in mind that different countries have different systems, so if you're doing two routes that are both based in the UK, then they ought to have exactly the same code that commands how the signalling and box systems work. That's the only logical way to develop something like this, and they haven't done it. So what happens is they copy and paste the code from DLC A to DLC B, and then DLC B doesn't work properly. So then they start tweaking it to make it work, rather than making it adhere to the system that was implemented in A, or improving A so that A and B are both brought up to the same standards so that these problems don't exist. They just tweak B until they get it working, and then they release it. So now A and B are two completely different bits of code. Very similar, lots of the same code, but with loads of tweaks in this one that don't exist in this one. And then they'll tweak something in A to fix something in A or improve A, and now you've got 3 or 4 different areas where there are changes. So then if you come in and you fix something in A and you think, oh, we better do that in B, you go over and you do that, that breaks B, because A and B are not the same anymore. This is where object-oriented development would fix all of those problems, because you're only fixing it in one place and rolling it out across the board. I cannot emphasize how much this irritates me. Their whole design philosophy causes all of these problems.
Is that fair?
It's to a large extent, yes, but it's more a case of having comparable artwork and systems from another route of that region. So doing
artwork? Really? Artwork is the least of your problems. Artwork can be gathered in a day. Easily gathered in a day. Or, you know, if you have to physically go and take a photograph in order to get real visual fidelity, then okay, a week. To be honest with you, when you create new systems for a new country, Germany, Italy, Japan, Britain, wherever, that should come as a package, including the artwork. To reference the artwork is a limitation. That's a cop-out.
East Coastway was far faster than doing Long Island, even though East Coastway was first, because the system is already very, very similar in real life to the one that was used on Southeastern High Speed and the Kent route, whereas we didn't have the artwork or a US system that was similar to that on Long Island, so we've had to do some.
They've got more than one US system, more than one US DLC, right? So how do they not have the artwork? All across America, the signaling systems and the artwork are going to be fairly consistent, right? How do you produce something like Long Island without any artwork to go along with it? Surely that would have been collated and gathered and stored somewhere in order to make it in the first place.
Work there to make something that sits within the environment. We can't just stick like British Rail departure boards on Long Island Railroad. So once we've got that similar set, then yeah, it is.
The code behind how those display boards work should be the same, regardless of how it looks. The visual element of something like that can be tweaked and honed way after development has been completed. That's not a viable excuse for it not being there.
It is proving to be a pretty easy thing for us to introduce, which is what.
It's an easy thing to introduce. It's not even difficult, so just do it.
Only on the first week, really, of March, last week, we were doing a lot of time in looking at what the scope of this month will be. Literally a week we've already done rapid transit and main specifiers platform boards, because a lot of our German.
That's really good news. I'm glad to hear that. I really am. They both released 2 years ago. This is not good.
It's all set in the same time period, the same era, and therefore coming from.
Bearing in mind he said how easy it is, right? 2 years it's taken them to do it. Turns out it's really easy. Fucking do it.
Is it Munich Augsburg? The system was pretty much up and running, ready to go, so we just needed to plug it in and get it installed. So,
okay, good. But then if you take that over to signalling systems now, as much as the different signalling systems in different countries have a whole bunch of different kind of rules and regs associated with them, let's say you were to comprehensively tackle a signalling system on a route, would that give you better insight into the
Yes, it should, but if it was designed properly then it would fix all other DLCs that are in that same country operating under those same signaling conditions. Can you see how much work they're creating for themselves by doing it this way?
Overall way that our signalling and the way they communicate with trains is interacts, or is it a case of no, you have to learn it afresh on a route by route basis?
There's an awful lot that goes into the signalling system. It is all...
Trust me, I don't know every signalling system in the planet. I am certainly not a guru in that department. I appreciate it's kind of complicated. I mean, it's relatively simple and straightforward, really, but to implement it is probably quite a complex, difficult system to implement. I grant them that.
Also a very, very deeply seated system.
That's the problem. It's a deeply seated system within each DLC, and it shouldn't be. It should be one single point of update that rolls out across all DLCs that work in that environment.
In a route, a lot of things depend on that system, a lot of things operate from that system. So unlike installing passenger information systems on a platform, which while they look great is actually a largely visual system and it provides for the player but doesn't really touch anything, the signalling system really does link into the timetables, the gameplay, how everything plays, you know, the rate, how many trains can fit in areas. So it is a much, much bigger task, and especially in terms of testing when we come out the other side, but also a large amount of the building of each route is about customizing the signalling system for that particular route. You know, something like where we've come out of Hagen for a number of routes, that is easy to just extend the signalling system, and therefore all those routes that share that location share that signalling system.
Right.
Long Island Railroad doesn't share its signalling system with anything else. Now we have done...
Okay, so what they're saying there is that, you know, each individual route has its own set shape, design, connections. It's you know, you're having to build or extend the route from a point going forwards. So when they're working in a similar area, they can sort of expand out, and they've got a base on which to start. That is copy, paste, and tweak right there. It shouldn't be working that way. There should be a single point of entry, a single point of failure, and they work on that and make that work, and everything must adhere to that. Can you imagine if in the real world they did it this way? Can you imagine the lack of cohesion there would be between all the systems trying to communicate together? It doesn't work. There has to be one set of rules, and everything must adhere to that. It's the only way to make it work. This is probably why they don't expand any routes that currently exist, because their brains would have to... Well, I don't know actually, because he's saying there that to extend it from an existing route is actually quite easy. So why can't they extend these routes?
More advanced in-cab signalling with TVM of some recent routes, but this compares to Long Island being 2 years ago, more maybe potentially. So do we... Again,
it's 2 years out of date. They've improved and enhanced and expanded upon what they knew and made the system better, but it hasn't benefited from any of that work. Object-oriented design, it's the only way to make it work.
Try and work with the signalling system that's there. Do we look at overhauling it? It starts to get very expensive in time and engineering.
There you go. See, there's my point exactly. It does become expensive in time and engineering, and to continue throwing time and money at it is a pointless exercise. They really need to cut their losses and move over to an object-oriented design, so that there's a single point of failure. They will cut the amount of work they have to do, by 75%. If they just do this, initially there's going to be a massive uphaul. There's going to be so much work. They're going to be absolutely inundated with complications and issues here, there, and everywhere. But when they get past that point, they will have cut their overall workload down by 25%. And in the long term, that is going to be way more cost effective.
And testing, so we have to be very careful. Something like changing the signaling system is a little bit open heart surgery. We don't want to break what's there.
Yeah.
We don't want to affect scenario planner stuff that people may have created. So it's
anyone who's created a scenario that adheres to the signaling system in a single point failure design system will not be affected. Why won't they be affected? They won't be affected because everybody adheres to the same logic. Everybody adheres to the same rules, and it doesn't matter what their design was, their scenario design was, because at the end of the day, if the lights are red, the train will stop if everything adheres to the same system.
Let's move on and talk MSB, so main space up barn and rapid transit. What's at the top of your list of things to address?
Audio. Audio is front and center. So the guy, our audio technician guy, is currently looking at the Talent 2.
Give him a name. Let's talk about his
Martin.
Right.
Of the
Let's put his name in lights a little bit because he's doing some very important work.
Yes.
Sounds like he's doing it on his own.
On both the rapid transit and main specified audio, but he also is going to be worrying about the technical systems on the train as well. So we've talked about can LZB be expanded in its usage. Now again, that's tipping into the signaling system, so we'll have to see what happens there. But it is on this is highly sought after list.
Are you going to? So Matt Jamker is asking, are you going to add medals working correctly on rapid transit?
Yes, in fact, I think rapid transit is the last route that doesn't have a full lineup of scoring a medal system.
Can I just say that I think the medal system is a good idea, but I think it's been implemented terribly. It's so easy to get gold. I don't even know what I'm doing and I can get gold. It's so easy. There is no challenge whatsoever. There's no reward for learning the systems. They've really missed an opportunity there. I'd love to see a career mode in Train Sim World, but that's never going to happen.
It is disappointing that it's gone this far. So yes, that is on the gameplay front. That's my department. That is on my list. The scoring system and journey mode. One thing that we mentioned or we talked about was how do we decide what it is we're going to fix? There's all these different areas.
Yeah.
This comes back to prioritization. For me, functionality, audio, visual. Tell me what you think.
To some extent, irrespective of how long each fix might take, here's all the things that we want to try and tackle. Here's the target list, is what I call it.
Right.
And then working out from how impacting in the player experience is this, down to it's a floating tree a mile from the track.
That's loosely the correct attitude. For me, it's not definitive enough, but he's on the right tracks at least.
Are we ever going to care about that? So, we start at the most important, the most obvious, the things that are jarring, the things that are affecting people's experience, things that are breaking that immersion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we continue going to some extent until we run out of time. And then I have to call time and say, right, we've actually done a really good amount here. Let's stop, let's take stock, let's decide. Let's make sure what we have done is good and can go out.
And then,
let me just say, right, that this should never have been a thing. They should not have had to have created Adam's little team to do all of this stuff. This should have all been done at the point of release. Beyond that, in an object-oriented way, and I'm not going to stop saying it because it's so important, every enhancement that the game has received for the core should have benefited all of these previous DLCs. The way they're doing it, there is almost no end in sight because they're going to keep enhancing the core and improving the game to the point where these DLCs are not going to receive any future updates because they're going to have so many DLCs out. How could a small team like this possibly manage to keep on top of all that? It's impossible. It's implausible. It doesn't work. Train Sim World 3 is going to be a thing, and it's going to be a thing because they cannot keep on top of all the enhancements. They need to go for an object-oriented design where there's a single point of failure, or it just will never ever work properly.
And it can wait for the next lap, and you'll do it again. Because presumably you could spend the next 6 months working on just rapid transit and still not be finished.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we could.
What kind of logic is that? A 2-year-old DLC that needs 6 months of work and still not be working properly. That is unsustainable.
Make all kinds of improvements to it, but we have to weigh up. There are a lot of routes, and they all need a little bit of TLC to make sure they're all to the Train Sim World 2 standard.
Yeah.
What is the Train Sim World 2 standard? In an object-oriented way, they would have all benefited from these enhancements that you've made.
Right. See You Later says, why don't you just nick the Talent 2 from Colmarken and add that?
It is a different Talent 2. It's not exactly the same, and it's not just that it's got an extra middle car. There are internal differences as well. Our main train art team have a saying in the company that it is never just a reskin, so it's not simply a case of painting it silver.
Yeah, if the core components are the same, I mean, you might have an extra middle car or whatever, that would be an add-on to a system. In an object-oriented way, that wouldn't be a problem, because if the core locomotive itself is the same identical locomotive, then it should have exactly the same code and restrictions and limitations and updates and enhancements and bugs and issues as the exact same locomotive on a different DLC.
Because we've got that, we are definitely referencing it and looking at it and making sure that the things people do like.
They're copying and pasting code. That never works well. You can get away with it, of course you can, if you're lucky enough, but more often than not, it's going to introduce bugs somewhere along the line.
It might as well be an SD40 versus a Class 37 in terms of what the differences are.
Can be, yeah. If we've learnt that much between the release of one and the release of the other.
You see how ridiculous that is? Identical trains with completely different systems. Why? Why would you implement it that way? It makes no sense.
Right, let's talk about removed from roadmap. So that covers the Long Island Railroad. But we have removed from the roadmap the track IR support.
What? Track IR is something that should have been implemented right from the very get-go. They're removing it from the list.
That has been on there for a little while. The reason we've taken it off there is not because it's never coming, it's simply because there is no work being done on it at the moment.
What?
So we've removed it because we are trying to keep this roadmap as an accurate representation of work that is being done.
Right. See, this comes back to the thing I said right at the beginning about how their promises are never delivered upon, right? If the roadmap is a list of things that are a priority and actively being worked on, why was it added to the list? And why has it now been removed from the list? It's ridiculous. Track IR is not that complex a system to implement that it needs. They are doing far more complicated things than Track IR.
So it's highly likely to return, but we have to lean on. If it's not on the roadmap, there is
highly likely to return. We've been asking for Track IR support since the game came out 3-4 years ago. This is disgraceful. This is exactly Dovetail games. This is what frustrates me about them so much.
There is no work currently being done on it.
Yeah.
And that's why we've taken it off, because it's going to be probably a couple of months.
It's going to be a couple of months before they put it back on the list.
From now, before any further work is done. So that's the.
Why? Why? Give us details. Why exactly? What problem have you encountered? What is the reason for promising, putting it on the list and making people think that you're working on something they want to see, doing no work on it and then taking it off? What is that all about?
The only reason it's being removed, it's not that it's been abandoned or anything like that, but for the time being, there is no work being done on it.
It's not been abandoned, guys, don't worry. Yeah, it should have been there when the game released 4 years ago, and yes, we did put it on the list of things that we were going to work on and get working, but now we've taken it off again. But don't worry, it's not being abandoned. It's not being abandoned, it's just not being worked on. Okay? That's much better, isn't it?
Pause.
Give it a week or two, right? Here's my pro tip. Give it a couple of weeks and then start banging on and on about how Track IR is vitally important, and do that on the forums and via social media and that kind of stuff. And someone somewhere will pay attention to you.
And what they'll do is they'll put it on the list, they won't do any work on it, and then they'll take it back off the list. So they're listening to you. 82.3% positivity for this.
That's just my recommendation. If you're desperate for Track IR, do let us know.
Personally, I'm not desperate for Track IR, but I would definitely like to see it. What gets me is that they keep doing this. We promise we'll do it. Here's a roadmap of things we're actively working on, and it's been on there for I don't know how long because I haven't been keeping tabs on this, and now it's not on there, and it won't be on there again for another couple of months. What is this rubbish?
And because not just kind of go, oh, I've had another idea, and then do it again, says the bloke who has rewritten the way that the roadmap is done 75 different times.
Yeah.
Right, so then the Colonel is in charge of the roadmap. If he has, I don't get this. Why is he in charge of the roadmap? Is he dictating what doesn't get done? No. Then why is he writing the roadmap? That makes no sense to me.
So it's just, anyway, so I kind of go, yeah, I knew that. I wouldn't say it. I like to make out like I'm being all rebellious and stuff, but I know where the line is of what I can and can't do.
There you go. See, this is my problem with Colonel Sanders. He comes across like he says, like he's rebellious, like he's on the side of the consumer, but I don't think he is. Sometimes it says things that makes me think he is, but then that's always confounded by things that make me think he's just Dovetail Games spokesperson, and he's just saying whatever he thinks we need to hear to keep us quiet, like Track IR is being worked on. I mean, I can't be bothered, but I'd like to go back to when he announced that Track IR was being added to the work list and see what they actually said was going to happen, because clearly nothing has happened and now it's not on the list anymore, and it won't be again for a couple of months.
And I'll have a conversation with Mike and with other people as well, going like, and it kind of makes me a bit uneasy to put it on there now, and it's when there isn't the highest level of certainty. So if you want to see that as us obfuscating information, well, you can if you like. You're going to paint the narrative that best suits your worldview, but frankly, you've never had it so good. As far as visibility is concerned, and you only need to rewind a year and think about what were we telling you then? Nothing. That's what we were telling you then, and we're telling you loads now.
What are they telling us exactly? What happened to Track IR? How long are you going to keep working on these legacy systems, trying to fix them and bring them up to date? How long before all that stops? What are you telling us exactly?
It's a feeling of, are we definitely making the right choice here with this route?
Yeah.
Because this is the point of no return. We are going to make it. Everyone's going to be involved in it. So
now, I've already said about Colonel Sanders commenting on the fact that Dovetail Games are not going to release anything that extends an existing DLC item, right? But if an existing DLC item is very popular, if it's the most popular DLC thing that they've released, why on earth wouldn't they consider extending that track and selling that as the next DLC? It's already very popular. Who wouldn't want to see it extended? That's like the safest of all safe bets. This is crazy. And where's the third-party tools that they promised us 4 years ago? I'm sure there are some third-party companies who would be very interested in making hour-long, 2-hour-long, 4-hour-long, 8-hour-long routes, if possible, if your weird legacy system can even cope with that.
So this is the Train Sim World 2 update is our big update to the game this year. We have previously said it will not be paid. You will not have to pay for this update. So I am saying again, you will not have to pay for this update. That is subject to change.
What? Never had it so good. Never had the level of transparency that we have right now. This new update is not going to have to be paid for, subject to change. What the actual...
But at the moment, I and everyone else in the company have a 99.9% certainty that it will not be a paid update.
This is what I hate about Dovetail games. Bearing in mind, I'm going to reiterate this. I think the developers, I think the designers, I think the artists are all exceptionally talented, and I have huge amounts of respect for them. Who is the 1% or the 0.1% who is causing all of these problems? Who is that exactly?
And I am telling the company I don't want to do the Preserved Collection release process all over again.
Now, this is why I really have a lot of respect for Adam. He does not want to have to go through this BS again. What he's saying is either let them die, these old DLCs, let them stay as they are, or he's saying let's release things properly the first time. I'm hoping it's the latter.
So
yeah, so
nothing guaranteed, but I do not want them to go through that process.
You can take that as we don't want to do Preserved Collection all over again. Oh my goodness me, what a lot of work that was. That's a good question. Why, asks Dwerk, is Train Sim World update so vague? A couple of reasons. Firstly, we don't know everything that's going into it with 100% confidence yet.
That's clarity for you.
Work is ongoing, and the features associated with that might be this many, it might be that many. It could be somewhere in between. So we don't...
There you go, you never had it so good. You're either going to get this or this, but you're not going to have to pay for it unless we change our mind and you do. This is clarity.
We don't want to do speculative conversation on that kind of stuff.
Don't want to do speculative conversation, but you're definitely not going to have to pay for it, unless of course you do. And you're going to get this or you're going to get this. Could you be any more speculative?
We have touched on the different things that are likely to be involved previously. So it won't be a big thing like multiplayer, for example. Multiplayer will be listed out in the same way as Steam is currently listed out, if and when we ever get to it.
If multiplayer was promised at the beginning, Steam was promised at the beginning, now they're saying 4 years after release, if they ever get developed. This is why I don't like Dovetail games. I don't like this company. You cannot trust them.
Is Steam part of this update? No, Steam is not. Steam is a separate thing. Okay, that's two separate things. The other one, of course, is we want to be able to offer up a surprise once in a while. And this is, yeah, there you go. This is one where you can go, transparency only goes so far. You kind of go, yeah, once in a while we want to be able to surprise you with something that we're working on.
Don't have a problem with that. That isn't my problem. The transparency is, are you going to pay for it? Or are you not going to pay for it? Are they going to bring previous DLCs along with it? Or are they going to be left alone to die? Where's the transparency here? When's Steam coming? Is Steam coming? When's multiplayer coming? Is multiplayer coming? When's proper controller support coming? I understand that they're about to or have just released Raildriver controllers. I asked for controller support right at the beginning. In fact, you can thank me that you can rebind the keys in Train Sim World, because when it released, it wasn't there. And I made a great point of highlighting how pathetic that was. And a week later, it was there. Thank you for doing something that every other game development company on the planet has done since 2016, probably earlier than that. Where is the proper controller support? At the moment, it supports Xbox controller, which is about as immersive as sticking your hand in a blender, and then Raildriver, which is a very expensive, probably very good, I've never used it, but very expensive and very difficult to get hold of outside of America. Controller support system. We're talking about a cockpit full of buttons and axes, right? I have got flight sim gear that is easily accessible in varied ranges of price and accessibility that would be perfect for this. I've even created videos where I use my hot-ass X56 throttle in order to play Train Sim World. It is possible. I had to jump through some loops. It's not perfect. Where is the proper controller support? Why are they so crap at delivering quality?
That we keep that feature set quiet, or we don't tell you about it until we're ready to do something big and splashy. So it is all positive. It is all positive, right? There's some good sounding stuff in there, but it's,
no track IR.
Surprises lead to speculation. You're gonna speculate anyway, brutally honest Irish gamer. It doesn't matter what we say. You're going to speculate. So on the one hand, Mick's got it. So instead of disappointing you at hinting at things that might be coming, that we then have to go, and now it's not coming.
Do you mean like track IR? Is that what you mean? You don't want to say we're working on track IR and then say no, we haven't done any work on track IR. We're taking it off the list and we're not going to be working on it for the next 2 months. Is that what you mean? That kind of thing. Do you see how I don't know? I really genuinely can't tell if he's on the side of the consumer or not. I am erring, the longer this video goes on, I'm erring more and more towards him just being a mouthpiece for Dovetail Games.
Look, whether you like it or not, we're doing that. So complain if you wish. I can't stop you complaining. How...
Interesting customer service technique there. Let me just see if they've got a link. Oh, here's an interesting thing. If you ever watch these guys live and you click a like or dislike button, they go up by 2. Try it next time. Okay, so where's the roadmap? There's no link to the roadmap here.
Right. Okay. I'll try and get some more information on that. No, it's fine. I want to get more detail, and I'm gonna have to interface with Matt Porter to make that happen.
So I'm looking at the roadmap right now. It's not impressive, to be honest with you.
You booked a meeting about 2 weeks in advance.
Better, yeah, I know. Better use of memory, and also the standard download size reduction. I need to get a feel for how far along.
Here's another good reason for object-oriented design. Say they fix one train, so it's 100% perfect, okay? And that's a 2 gig download. So you download that, and that one train on that one route is now perfect. If that train has been used on 2 or 3 other lines, in order to get all 3 of those lines working, you need 6 gig of data. Now that's a rather random example, but it highlights the point, the issue here. They're talking about reducing the size. Object-oriented design is how you achieve that. You don't need to download exactly the same fix or a tweaked version of exactly the same fix to get exactly the same result in different ways for different trains. Each train has one point of failure that is fixed and updated, and everything is updated off one 2 gig download. Job done. Object-oriented. Come on, guys.
User guides and manuals are still coming along.
User guides and manuals should have been there at the point of release. How dare they think it's okay not to have these things in place when they sell you the product?
I like going back to the really old ones.
Oh, there we go. It's called Train Simulator at the moment, but the address is youtube.com/user/railsimulator.com.
Wow, that's before Dovetail Games, okay? That is a 2-minute fix. I could do that in 60 seconds. So just get on and do it. Don't say you're gonna, don't announce it like it's something. You could do it now, in the middle of the stream. It takes 60 seconds. It's such an easy fix.
There you go. It's called Train Simulator, but the address is Rail Simulator. And we're looking to change the vanity URL. Good luck with that. No, knowing how the YouTube operates, yeah.
Super easy.
Good luck with that one. So user guides and manuals is progressing. The main, we've spoken about main specified barn and rapid transit. Rail driver support for preserved collection will be continuing.
Yeah. The guys have been looking at the Long Island Railroad stuff. We have no.
Again, to just release support for one controller system is so pathetically bad. It's bloody awful. Honestly, they haven't got a clue, have they?
Because we don't try to make a habit out of doing a ton of work with no return out the other end. Might sound a little mercenary, but we are a business. So that's the first reason. The second reason is then we're not going to make one route for a country. We want to make a bunch of routes for a country, because
the other thing, which I'm sure they won't mention, is that in India, routes are going to be very, very long. Very long. And Dovetail Games don't want to make long routes because it takes too long. In all honesty, places like China and Japan I think, have more mad train enthusiasts than anywhere else in the world. It makes perfect sense to me that they release content there, but I don't know, maybe not.
Also, if you're thinking about India or Asian routes, they're actually down the list in terms of countries we haven't yet addressed. They're probably country-wise in like 6th or 7th place. India would be. China is probably around the same level as India as well. Japan probably comes a little bit higher than that. But numbers 1 and 2 are the Netherlands and Australia. They are the ones that are most heavily requested. So anytime we ask about doing extra countries, and we ask what countries would you like to see or what routes would you like to see, make your voice heard, because we pay attention to that information when we're considering expanding how much of the world we actually cover. So we only have a finite amount of time to build stuff.
And we can only build a certain amount of stuff in the course of a year as well. Right,
and well, that's what I mean. Is like, there are a number of hours that we have to work with in order to make new stuff.
And if you designed things in an object-oriented way, you'd have a lot more time on your hands. I'd just say that, to convert from what they've got now to an object-oriented design would be an awful experience. But once it was complete, they would have cut their workload by 75%.
And that's
they should have just started out like that.
That's the answer. I've given the answer a few times, so there you go. Yeah. Where's Canada on that list? Oh, I don't know. I don't have it memorized, and even
I'd love to see Canada, especially with dynamic weather. That would be awesome.
If I did, it probably wouldn't be accurate. But I do know that it is Netherlands, Australia that are 1 and 2. Netherlands is certainly number 1. Could I post a list of the country ranking? I have done already, actually. If you go look back for the list of the top 50 requested routes, I know that's posted somewhere on the forum, not by me, by somebody else, I think, because I didn't post it because it would set the wrong impression. And that wrong impression is, and now we're going to do it. It's no guarantee that we're going to do it. This is purely your feedback and how we've taken that on board. So, someone said, are you going to do a route in Scotland? Yeah, we are. Look at the roadmap, it's on there.
Okay, that's pretty cool. If you're not going to do countries like this, then why not release the third-party tools to let third-party companies do it? Again, another lie from Dovetail Games. A promise that was never delivered. I'm sure they wouldn't admit to lying, but a promise that will never be delivered.
Somebody else said, what about Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, and Wales?
Name your country.
Again, well, no, those are a different question, because the system of rail is actually one that we're already relatively familiar with.
In Wales, it is.
In Ireland, it's broad gauge.
Don't ask me. I don't know.
Different gauge.
Ireland's slightly different.
In fact, there's a lot of steam in Wales, a lot of legacy steam lines that would be awesome to do.
It is very difficult to record trains in the right environment. It is no way at all simply listening to a YouTube video and trying to match it, so synthesizing either. Because we don't know what the conditions that YouTube video is recorded in, so we don't know how accurate that is to being there in person. It's also very subjective. So what you actually hear, say in the driver's seat of a diesel multiple unit, might not be what people want to hear. They might want to hear something louder, or if it's very vibratory, they might get jarred or annoyed when they're driving along and that same vibration is playing.
Okay, I'm going to have to just share a point here, okay? OMSI 2 is a very old, very graphically poor, very unstable, very unimpressive looking game. The only thing that saves it and continues its existence, and it still gets played today, it still gets bought today at its ridiculous price, is because of the audio. And if you listen to the audio of the buses, it is the bangs and the creaks and the, you know, the rustles and the noise and the vibrations that make the audio experience so immersive. It is exactly that keeps OMSI 2 alive. Now, this is meant to be train sim world. It's meant to be a simulator. So get the audio right. If there are bangs, creaks, cracks, whistles, vibrations in the cab, I want to be able to hear that. I really do. It's so important. It took me a long time to realize that audio is the key to immersion, not graphics, audio. If you've got the audio, it's immersive. Why would they cut that out or not have it accurate? It's just ridiculous.
Playing constantly, so there's a lot of adjustment and subjectiveness to the audio as well. Yes, there are some instances where we might have, we should have done better maybe, but because of the subjective nature, we're doing the best we can with what we have access to and what we're able to do, and then taking on feedback and seeing how we can improve going forward. We're always taking on feedback, always looking to do better.
Yeah. And the short
Armstrong
answer
Powerhouse,
is,
that's the name.
Yeah, we
that's
really
what I was trying
would.
to think of.
Yeah. But
you have to bear in mind that
sometimes they don't have what we want. And
no, but they are capable of doing a much better job of it than you, it seems. So why don't you invest some time and money into actually getting your audio yourself properly? You must have had access to the cab at some point in order to build the cab. So build that into your process.
But that doesn't mean that we're unwilling to work
Precisely.
with anybody else. And the quality of the sound that we do is really important. We've got sound as a major objective to kind of tick off this year, or make at least significant progress on, because sound is absolutely crucial to your immersion in the game. And the one thing that's been coming through loud and clear is we haven't been doing a good enough job with sound. So there is that to be done. Now this swings over into passenger announcements, both on the platform and on the train. And someone said, well, surely it isn't that difficult just to record those. Kind of go, no, it's not. It's not difficult to record those. Getting the license for them, on the other hand,
in as well. We have had, say, the voice actors that provided those original sounds.
Just get somebody to do it. I mean, in a perfect world, they would have a text-to-speech system implemented, but that wouldn't sound very authentic. So just get somebody who works at your company to do it. Problem solved.
What we don't have is the tech at the moment to do that playback. Now, it's not because that tech is necessarily difficult to implement. It's more a case of it hasn't hit the top of our to-do list yet.
Why hasn't it hit the top of the to-do list yet? It's probably one of the most requested things in the entire game.
How can you be Train Simulator without basic simulation like passenger announcements? That's like doing car simulator, not simulating the wheels. That's not a good parallel at all. We do simulate the wheels on the train. What we're not simulating, if this were a car simulator, is the radio.
No, it would actually be the commentary coming over the tannoys on the side of the track, which some racing sims do, but it's more than that, isn't it? It's difficult to draw a parallel, but they should be doing it. End of story. Yeah, they've had more than long enough.
We just don't have the radio yet, but it's something that we want to do, but it is not seen as so mission critical that it is at the top of the list. The community on Facebook, for example, are really quite, they're quite enthusiastic and positive. At the other end of the spectrum is Reddit. We need to hear from both ends of that spectrum.
Why is that funny? I don't get why that's funny. The people on Facebook who are very positive, why do you need to adhere to their needs at all? They're quite happy. How about all of the customers on Reddit, for example, who are not? Are their concerns less applicable? In fact, they're the only ones who have concerns, so why not prioritize them?
Because then we can build a full picture of exactly what's going on and...
What's the full picture all about? The happy people have nothing constructive to provide. They serve literally no benefit to you whatsoever.
And what people?
Except for the fact that they'll probably blindly continue buying your stuff even when you're not delivering on your promises. That's the only benefit of people on Facebook, I would imagine.
Actually want to.
Good luck getting by just with the people on Facebook, though. I really would love to see people boycott this company and just stop buying stuff. But that would mean the end of Train Sim World, and where's the alternative? There is no alternative. So technically, I don't want to see it gone. I just want to see it improved with basic things like head tracking, controller support, and when they fix something on one train, it's fixed on all the trains that are related, all the same trains on all the routes.
So
these are not big requests.
We read everything that we can get our hands. So Adam's already said that our next target is going to be a British route, but he's not telling us which. But we'll find out next time, because he's probably still considering a couple. Or do you already know?
No, it's still got our eyes on a few. So
okay.
We need to narrow it down. I did see in the stream that someone has said that a passenger information system mod has been created for the Curator. That's awesome. That's
very good.
Awesome.
Works.
That's really awesome. Why is there a mod to achieve something that Dovetail Games are charging people for?
It's really well.
It's just we haven't got to it. There's no reason why we haven't got to it other than we just haven't got to it.
There's no reason that we haven't got to it other than we just haven't got to it yet. We've charged you the money, you've paid for our goods, but we just haven't finished doing it yet. But because, we just haven't. Do you know, I haven't seen any PC mods at all for Train Sim World. That's something I'm going to have to look into.
The TSW.
And I'm a massive fan of the modding community. I have huge amounts of respect for these people. A, for their talents, B, for their consideration, and C, for their willingness to tirelessly work on these things. So, yeah, I'm going to have to check that out.
The subreddit isn't that bad. It's mainly constructive criticism. Mystic Xenos would say that, given that he's the chief moderator. So it's fine. No, look, that constructive criticism is true, and it is most welcome. I'm not throwing Reddit under the bus. As I said, we value all feedback, no matter what the tone is that it takes.
Not true, because they don't value my feedback. Because as soon as I gave them a negative feedback and said to people, don't buy their stuff, they immediately revoked any access I had to any of their stuff. Yeah, quite rightly. I am literally telling people not to buy their stuff. I can see why they took umbrage. But by doing that, they're trying to control the narrative. That's not okay. There is a legal element to that where they're controlling the narrative. People need to be able to review their products. Proper reviewers, not people on YouTube who get the game for free and say whatever they can positively so that they get the next one. I have never done that. Look at all of my DLC reviews that I've done. Most of them they sent me for free. Not all of them. Most of them they sent me for free. And all of them have positive and negative elements in them. Every single one. Because that is what a review is. What they want is people to promote their product and just say positive things. That's disgraceful. That's controlling the narrative.
Can we talk about the era at least? The era is mentioned in the short code. There's a thread called Cracking the Code over on the forums that will tell you what those short codes actually mean. And that will tell you what era it's set in.
This is a Q&A session. Why not just tell him the answer? Just being a dick.
There you go. I'm not going to do the work for you, because once you know it, you know it. See?
Yeah.
Someone has
Just answer the bloody question.
asked, the sky improvements will affect all routes, not just Long Island Railroad. No, it is on a case-by-case basis, so each route needs to have the improved skies added to it.
That's pathetic. Each route has its own skybox.
That will get attention, but it does mean that not every 185 will get fixed, only the ones in main specified. That's where we're starting at the moment. So,
Yeah.
Object-oriented design. They fixed the 185 once. Every single instance of the 185 gets fixed. Can they just not see the logic or the illogic behind their illogic? The lack of logic behind their approach.
Any news on passenger behaviour? Yeah, that is high up on our list, but no news.
What? Passenger behaviour? I assume they're talking about rush hour and stuff like that. That's been on the list since the beginning of the game. No, since Great Western. As soon as that came in, people started talking about that. And they still haven't done it? It's on the list, but they still haven't done it. This is outrageous.
We want, wherever possible, to do properly licensed routes and the locos that run on them. So,
Shame they don't do
that's
fully
why,
clickable cockpits.
The NSF is not something that's likely to turn up.
Realistic audio.
Yeah.
Dynamic weather.
Do we have a release slot yet for the departure boards on East Coastway? I don't.
That's what it is. Someone else asked, do I get the Diesel Legends pack for free, given that I already have all of the other DLCs that interact with it? I've already got the trains. Do I get the rest of the pack for free? No, you don't. So you need to think carefully about, is it something that you need or not? We did a preview. Matt and I did a preview of it last week. Was it last week or was it Monday? That was yesterday. No, it was me doing Scenario Planner yesterday. It was last week. Go look it up. We show off exactly what it is. And if that is...
It sounds to me like they've copy and pasted some trains over to beef the price up. What does it actually include then? I just had a quick Google there to see if I could see it, but I couldn't. I'll see if I can find the video, but it sounds to me like Dovetail Games have copied and pasted some trains in to make something not very impressive be sold at a higher price. That's what it feels like right now.
If the secondary timetable is not something that appeals to you, then don't bother getting it.
So it's a secondary timetable. I wonder what the price is for it. It's a secondary timetable only. No new route, no new trains, a secondary timetable. If they're asking £25 for that, I hope it gets slated.
If it does appeal to you, go for your life. If you
It does appeal to me, but what price?
Good. Yeah, good. Right, I think we're about there. Oh, hold on. Routes like West Somerset, Rosignoord and Rapid Transit don't have AI cars on the roads. Will you be adding those when you get to them?
That's one route that I actually know very well. I've been on it many times. I know it from end to end. And what they did was produce something which is really shit. It's missing so many key elements. There's a castle, which off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of. It's pretty flipping iconic, okay? It's one of the reasons why many people take the train is to see the castle on the hill. And there are loads of towers all over the place that really make up the environment of that area and that route. And they've just failed to capture it so badly. I did a full review on this back when they released it. Obviously, steam trains are a massive part of that route, and they failed to produce any steam trains, not just then, but period. It's a massive disappointment. I've got to concede that the actual stops themselves, the actual stations themselves, are pretty good. Not perfect, way off being perfect, and everything in between is pretty poor, but there are some serious iconic buildings that should be visible on that train route and are simply not there. So AI cars is just one minute thing missing from that route, and yet it was still charged at that ridiculous £25 price.
Yes.
Right.
Disingenuous
I'm
from
not allowed to be
Dovetail
so
Games
definitive.
once again.
That is on the list of upgrades that we target. And yeah, if we get to it, we get to it. We don't guarantee it, but that is on the list. I have a list of about a dozen features that is present in Train Sim World 2 routes that might not be present in older routes. So yeah, it is on the list if we can get to it.
Yeah. Someone asked, when is the Diesel Legends pack out? It's out this Thursday. I like to be able to give a date once in a while, even though it's a date
That's
we've announced
tomorrow.
before. I like to be able to give a date. When will the Steam come out? No idea at all. It has got months and months of development still to go, right? And that's, if I could be more vague, I would. It's got a long time still to go before we're ready with Steam. So we're going to keep you up to speed on how we're working through it and what are the considerations. We're at the what are the considerations stage in terms of the articles we're putting together, but along that path we will talk more about what is going on. But no, it's you've got a while to wait yet. We've got a while to
4 years, not long enough, no?
wait. So ease down.
I saw another great question.
I don't know why they're laughing. It's not funny. I bought into Train Sim World because I couldn't wait to see Steam Trains. And I was told directly by Matt Peddleston that they were definitely coming. I see no evidence of that. It's not
Have
funny.
you fixed the extra services backdoor cheat on the Great Western Express for consoles so we can no longer use them?
So we have done fixes for that actually.
No, this is the one whereby you could access the stuff that we no longer have the license for.
Yeah, if you go out through journey mode and come back in. No, they're talking about if you go out into journey mode and back out again on console, you can then load up the PC version. So yeah,
Is that still in there?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So yeah, we thought we fixed it, but clearly
we would only remove something if it was going to have a detrimental effect by leaving it in. So yeah, I mean, holes like that are not ideal.
But in terms of the blue HST set, we are not going to be touching that.
Actually, a couple of people have said, are we going to get any news or sneak peeks of Hamburg to Lübeck? Yeah, I would have thought so, Mike. If you're still got your ears on, we've got some Hamburg behind the scenes preview type behaviour coming up soon. Mike's not typing. Mike's obviously got other things in his hands at the moment, and I dread to think what those might be. Cup, saucer. There you go. That's probably what it is. Oh no, here we go. Mike is typing.
While he's typing then, I did see a great one about, do we need to complete all of the Preserve Collection improvements process before the next core release of Train Sim World? No, we don't need to, as far as I've been told, we don't need to stop the process or complete it. So we'll carry on regardless.
Okay, yeah, Mike has said there will be some Hamburg development features coming up. But they'll be as it gets a little bit closer. It is third in the queue at the moment, so we'll get some stuff on there too. Yeah. Right, no other. The class 313. A couple of people have asked if there's any news on that. There is no news on that. These streams are here to kind of hang a little bit of meat on the bones of what's going on with the roadmap. But we're not really going to talk about what's happening with upcoming routes or locos or anything along those lines. We save those for when we kind of talk about them in a more formalised setting, because not everybody has the time to sit through an hour and a bit of Adam and I just chatting back and forth to try and pick out that one nugget of information about an upcoming route. So we do try.
So here's an idea then, Dovetail Games. Why don't you employ one of your people, maybe even Colonel Sanders here, to go through the video and take out sections which are relevant to certain things and just upload those as short snippets? That's more views for you, that's more money for you, and that's better clarity for people.
Try not to announce big stuff while just chatting. We might reference slightly bigger stuff when we're just chatting, but beyond that, it's all fine. The C48, sorry, Judoy, I saw your post on the forum. It's the C48W banking com and the AC4400 brake fix. Was the AC4400, that wasn't fixed in today's, was it? That wasn't
not intentionally. If it did fix things, that's great, but there was
that wasn't an intentional fix. It will more. We covered sandpatch grade earlier on, and given that those are fundamentally associated with sandpatch grade, it is more appropriate there. But sandpatch grade isn't being looked at for a while.
And there's no
train
news
announcements
on either.
Train announcements. Chris, back up the stream by about 20 minutes and pay attention from there. Anything else?
Just answer the question.
Can we have some meat on the cement circle problem?
The guy's clearly turned up a little bit late to the stream. He's just asking a question. He might not even be asking them directly, but just asking chat. Just answer the question.
I'm waiting for a reply.
That also, I did see other mentions of sound improvements. Will they go to the 2020 version? No, they will not. This will only be for the Preserve collection on Traceable 2.
Yeah. Right, there you go. Yeah, that's it. That's going to wrap it up for this week. So when are we going to be adding new routes to the list? Soon is the answer. I mean, when stuff starts leaving the list, more stuff will be coming up. We are getting through the full year now in terms of locking down the stuff that is likely to be made. And that's going to lead to an interesting conversation that I need to have with someone a bit later on. But there you go. Yeah, sorry, that was a mental note that I should have kept in my head. So thanks very much for tuning in. If you've got questions, if you've got feedback, we want to hear it. You can submit it anywhere where there is a Train Sim World community, and we will find it. The official forums are a good place to go because we're in there constantly. But there you go. That's about the size of it. Anything else you want to finish off with?
Only that I have seen a few comments about my presence dropped off quite considerably on the forums. That is because I had a little bit of a briefing, and Natalie deserves more things to talk about. I was stepping on her toes, so I did apologise to Natalie. She does an absolutely fantastic job. I certainly didn't want to take the limelight away from her. So
it's not about limelight. For community managers, the best way to learn anything is to have to understand it. So when a question comes up, historically, Adam would answer the question. Just go straight in, answer the question, which is great, which is what we want. But it actually helps the community team get a bigger and broader understanding of the way the game is put together, and particularly how problems hang together, by then talking about it with the developer and then having to spell it out and write the response themselves. So it is, yes, it is very much a less efficient way of getting you the information, but in the long term what it means is that your community team are better able to represent you because they have a better understanding of the game and the problems overall.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Right. Connor, good one. Yeah, I meant to mention that. We are planning to, and then we could be doing it already, but Natalie's got some real world nonsense going on at the moment, which is interfering with her ability to do normal hours. But she's fine. Everything's fine. She'll be back, but she's just got some real world stuff that is interfering at the moment. She's the one who does the work on checking through all the tech report stuff that comes in, and she has assured me that she will be flagging each thread, not every post, just the first thread in each topic, as helpful as soon as she has reported back the substance of that thread. She's probably done
I
loads
also
already.
read her threads as well. Even if she's already seen them, I will be going through and saying, "Oh, I like this thread. Can you note this thread? You know that thread." So
yeah. So if you see Adam give something a thumbs up, then you know he's been in there. There you go. All right.
Cool. I could do that. Yeah.
Just do it. If you've read the thread, give it a thumbs up, and that way, whether you like it or not, and that way people know you've read it.
No thumbs down then, I guess.
We don't have a thumbs down button because people were using it, we're weaponizing it.
Oh.
Yeah. No, this is... If you ever want to know the answer to this is why you can't have nice things. Yeah. Right, okay. Thanks very much for tuning in today. We'll be back in 2 weeks with the next roadmap update. Chuck us your feedback. We want it. Say goodbye, Adam.
Do ya?
Goodbye, Adam.
Right.
They want my feedback. Well, here you go. Here's my feedback, guys. You promise things, you never deliver them. You rank up prices. I just had a little look on the Diesel Legends first look pack. Pretty much, I mean, I haven't even looked at this yet. I haven't watched it yet. I will do. But pretty much, a lot of it just basically goes, you're ripping us off. Which is Dovetail Games all over. Honestly, they need to move over to object-oriented design where one point of failure can be updated across the board. And honestly, all of these problems, all of the crap that Dovetail Games have had with every single release they've ever had will be gone. They'll still have bugs to fix, they'll still have loads of stuff to fix, but instead of having to do it 25 times, they'll do it once and it'll be rolled out across the system and everybody can get it at the same time. You won't have to buy this DLC to get this updated feature. No. It will be rolled out across and everybody will benefit from it. They will benefit from it because they'll be able to do more in less time. They'll have more people free to do more stuff. They'll be able to release more content because they'll have more free time and more people to do it. Honestly, it's the solution to all of their problems, and they are going to make it worse the longer they continue on this linear fashion, because the more DLC content you've got in a non-object oriented design, the more work you're going to have to do to fix it all. I can't say it enough times. Dovetail Games have not impressed me. The rail driver thing has not impressed me. The track IR thing has not impressed me. The copy and paste and tweak approach to this Diesel Legends thing, probably an inflated price, I'll find out tomorrow, has not impressed me. Dovetail Games, honestly, I just wish there was somebody out there to put a bit of pressure on them, a competitor to really show what can be done. They're smug and they're ignorant, and there's nobody that can touch them because there's no competitor to push them, and that's so disappointing. They're capable, don't misunderstand me. The modeling is fantastic. Some of the things they've done are absolutely fantastic. It could be the very best train simulator in the world if they just listened and prioritized properly. If they stopped releasing crap in a broken, crappy state and just expect everybody to deal with it. How the hell have they got 83% positivity? I'm not saying they bought those reviews, although the thought has crossed my mind. Just don't understand it. What is it they've done that's so good that people are that happy? I mean, some of the routes are good, I'm sure. I just don't know which ones. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Let me know in the comments what you think. See you in the next one. Goodbye for now.